animated series by Rooster Teeth. Check it out at roosterteeth.com. Greetings, traveler, and welcome to another episode of Josh Won't Shut Up About Cinder. Da-da-da-da. Cinder is one of the longest running characters in the show. Aside from the fact that her motivation goes as deep as the thirst for power, she's actually really cool. She actually holds the record for the most amount of outfits in the series, like out of all the characters. She's had 8 different outfits in 6 volumes. Aside from Ozpin, I mean, let's see here. Cinder's had 8, Ruby's had 6, for example. Weiss's had 7, and Ozpin, up to volume 6, he's had 9. Apart from having a ton of variants to her outfit, she actually has some new variants for her theme in volume 6. The first one is Lonely Cinder from chapter 2, and the other one is Maternal Cinder from chapter 9. Let's go over Lonely Cinder, which plays in volume 2. Here, Cinder has just woken up from a fall from the Battle of the Maidens. She's physically messed up, but determined to keep living. When she crawls with a grim arm, we can hear a motif that I haven't quite figured out yet. I'm sure that the first time we've heard this was during Volume 5, Chapter 12, when Cinder reveals that she has a grim arm. If we take a look at the melody, or listen to the melody, it sounds a lot like the one from Lucis Naturae. The former is rearranged in a score to become the grim theme, and the first time we hear this is in Volume 4, Chapter 1. Sound familiar? Yes. So it's the Grim Arm theme. Not only does Cinder have a ton of themes, but her arm also has its own individual theme. After the Grim Arm theme, we get some chords on trombone that resemble Cinder's theme. We get an alteration of D minor and D flat 7th. And the bass plays the root note, except from the last D flat 7th, where it plays a flat 7th, which would be a C flat, which would be a B. Makes sense, right? The viola also hints half of its usual melody. The chords don't match exactly. For example, they do both start in D minor, but the original goes into D flat minor 7th, while the score goes into a D flat dominant 7th. The bass also doesn't match up exactly, but there is one familiar detail. It's that B. In the original theme, the bass hits a B as the 5th of E major, but in this case, it works as the flat 7th to the D flat. Despite being the lowest voicing, it doesn't sound like the root note, since the trombones have established a D flat 7th sound. And that's why I don't consider it a B flat 5th at 9. What? Then, a quiet transitions us into a thriller crescendo of repeating bass notes and dissonant viola strikes. In this section, every instrument plays in sloppy rhythms. They're all in different keys, but those keys have the same root note. D. They're all in D. They're all in D something. The melody of the choir remotely sounds like the original, but instead it hits the 5th, the 3rd, the 2nd, and it all ends in an unsettling flat 5th, which we call the tritone because it's evil. The long, slow viola line that starts with the tense bass is also a rendition of the same old theme. However, it plays in a key that has a flat 2nd, flat 3rd, and a flat 5th. I initially guessed that it was Locrian, but it would have had a flat 6th, which it doesn't. It actually plays the 6th, and it's a natural 6th. It turns out that it's a tad more complicated. We're dealing with a diminished scale. A diminished chord is made up by 4 notes in equal intervals of minor thirds. The scale is quite peculiar as it is obtained by overlapping 2 diminished chords. This way we get the unusual scale of 8 tones. If you've realized, there's more than one way to make 2 diminished chords interlink. If you choose a root note, in this case D, you obtain half of a diminished scale, that is, the notes that belong to D diminished. Now, to get the other half, I can add a new diminished chord a half step away from D, so E flat, or a whole step away, so E. In the first instance, we get a half step diminished scale. And in the second instance, you'll get a whole step diminished scale. Easy, right? Going back to the viola line, the only scale it can play in is a half step diminished. Not only would that get us the flat second that the Locrian can give us, but it will also give us the natural sixth that the Locrian lacks. The bass strums these. Pretty straightforward. Except occasionally it plays a line that resembles the double bass triplet introduction to All Things Must Die. Dun 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 dun. Except this time it's 16th notes. Let's talk about the scale. The occasional licks reveal that it has a natural second, flat third, and flat fifth. Now, when I saw the flat fifth, I immediately thought Locrian. But if it were Locrian, it would have a flat second, which it doesn't. We all know where this is going. This is yet another diminished scale, but it can't be a half step diminished scale because that too would have a flat second. Therefore, it's a whole step diminished scale. That's right. D half step diminished playing over D whole step diminished. Okay. Yeah. Overall, this score lets you infer that Cinder is weak. She's not at her greatest. This is beautifully conveyed by the broken up half melodies that are played by the viola and the choir lines. Despite all of this, Cinder presses on and she'll be soon up to no good again. The determination is represented by the crescendo at the end, but the evil, the nefariousness is implied by the multiple dissonant keys that play over each other. But it's not all death and destruction. In Chapter 9 of Volume 6, Jeff Williams and Alex Abraham bless us with a new rendition of the theme. And this time, it's less evil, right? It plays while Emerald says that Cinder was like a mother to her. And sure enough, Cinder's theme is played by soothing piano octaves, strings, and flutes. First chord, we're in D Lydian and the strings take advantage of the sharp fourth, tritone, to resolve to the fifth. The same happens with the sixth, which also comes down to a fifth. The flute plays a melody that has an identical rhythm to Cinder's, but not identical pitches. It starts off with a heartwarming major seventh, but then it jumps a fifth up to the augmented fourth. It jumps down a second to the major third, and then it goes down a minor third to what would be a flat second. But when we get to that flat second, we're not in D anymore, so it's all good. Speaking of new chords, second chord. The strings play an E and an A flat, which sounds like we've moved up to an E major. After all, the lowest voicing is E, and it sounds like the root note. Even the flute's melody works as a nice seventh to the E. However, the second set of notes, D flat and E, reveal that D flat was the root note all along. And the notes prior still work. The E is the minor third, the A flat is the fifth, and the flute's E flat is a sneaky second. The next bar is a repetition of the motif, but it's cut off because Mercury interrupts Emerald as she speaks to say, Cinder doesn't care about you. So, ending the maternal thought somewhat. Recap. The Lydian mode is the soothing mode. Really, it is. In media, it's often associated with satisfying mechanisms, flight, nature, and all that jazz. The flute also has a soothing timbre. Its frequencies are high but not annoyingly, kind of like the cry of a puppy. These are the main ingredients that, put together, put us in Emerald's shoes, from which we can see that Emerald feels at home with Cinder. Bless her heart. I want to point out how similar D flat minor 7th and E major 7th are. Just to get the idea, here's E, A flat, and B playing over different bass root notes. This is because all three of these pitches are in both of the chords. They just have different roles. Keep in mind that both these chords are used in Cinder's actual theme, so it seems that they have been borrowed from the same key. Smart move, Jeff. And you, Alex. And on that note, this video has come to an end. We have to part ways, I know, but we can meet again. All you have to do is surf my channel. Pick something you like. I've just set up my Patreon page and the link is in the description. You support me more than you think. Exclusive